The alarms began in the middle of Jonah Hale's night shift on Colony Mir. Short, angry beeps that never meant anything good. He was alone in the comms bay, feet on the console, lukewarm coffee in his hand, watching slow trade traffic drift past the edge of the system. It had been a quiet week. He had even started to believe it might stay that way. Then every contact on his holomap went red. "Traffic control to patrol wing, what are you doing?" he muttered, straightening in his chair. But the signatures were wrong. Too large, too fast, and there were too many of them. Warships, not human. Jonah slammed his palm on the alert plate. The soft beeping turned into a rising scream. Across the colony, lights flipped from white to emergency amber. Somewhere out there, sirens answered. "Mir command, this is Hale in comms. I've got 40 incoming hostiles. No IFF. Vectoring straight for us." His voice shook, and he hated that. Static hissed back at him. Then the old voice of Commander cut through. "Confirm that, Jonah. 42 now," he said. "And climbing." For 3 long breaths, there was nothing but the sound of the alarms and Jonah's heart pounding in his ears. He thought of the surface domes, of the children who watched cargo ships rise like stars. He thought of how thin the metal was between them and space. "Understood," Ree said. Her voice had gone flat and calm. "Broadcast all channels. Planetary distress code. Full band. We're under attack." He swallowed. "By who, ma'am?" "Doesn't matter," she said. "Just shout loud enough that Earth hears before we burn." Jonah took one more sip of cold coffee, put the cup aside, and began to scream into the sky. The first shots came 15 minutes later. Jonah watched them on the orbital feeds, the black shapes of enemy cruisers sliding past the moons, their hulls slick and smooth like knives. Bright lances of energy flicked out from them, thin and almost delicate, until they hit something human and turned brutal. The outer defense ring vanished in silent flashes. Shields just collapsed on stations 3 through 9. Someone shouted over the comm net. "We're losing." The voice cut off. Static again. Jonah kept working. Hands shaking, he pushed the distress code again and again, cycling frequencies, bouncing the signal off anything that still listened. Earth was far. The core worlds were farther. But the message went out. Colony Mir under attack. Civilian population. Request immediate aid. Priority 1. On the secondary screen, he saw the enemy fleet shift, like a flock of metal birds turning as one. They did not reply to hails. They did not demand surrender. They simply started firing at the surface. Through an exterior cam, he watched a beam carve through one of the domes. Atmosphere blossomed into space, carrying debris and people with it. For a heartbeat, they looked like small silver fish thrown into the sky, catching the light before they disappeared. Jonah's stomach clenched. "Come on," he whispered to the empty room. "Somebody answer. Anyone." A soft chime cut through the chaos. Not from Mir, from deep space. The incoming signal was weak, full of noise, routed through some old military relay nobody used anymore. The origin tag flickered, unreadable, then resolved into 3 words that did not make sense. Titan Command Network. The channel opened by itself. A woman spoke, her voice calm and sharp as a blade. "This is Captain Alara Quinn, acting commander of the war giant Asterion. Colony Mir, we hear you." Jonah stared at the words on his display. For a second he forgot about the alarms, forgot about the beams tearing his world apart. "Mir Control, respond," the woman's voice said again. "Is anyone still on this channel?" He fumbled for the mic. "This is Jonah Hale, comms officer. We're still here. Barely." "Who did you say you were?" "Captain Alara Quinn, United Earth Defense," she replied. "We're en route. 1 war giant, 2 escorts. 10 minutes to real space insertion." War giants. Jonah had grown up on stories about them. Colossal walking ships that could fight in orbit or stride across a planet's surface. Relics from the last Great War. Most people thought they had all been shut down, sealed in forgotten docks while the politicians smiled and said the galaxy was finally safe. "Thought the giants were scrap," he said before he could stop himself. "Guess we kept a few toys." Alara answered. There was a hint of humor there, buried under iron. Jonah, I need data. Enemy numbers, formation, weapons profile. Feed everything you have to the channel I'm opening now. He pulled the streams together with clumsy fingers, routing radar, LiDAR, and broken sensor readings into the corridor she requested. As he worked, he listened to the background sounds on her end. Clipped voices, heavy footsteps, the deep, distant thrum of something waking up. Core spin is stable, someone reported. Leg joints at 40%. We can push them. We don't push, Alara said. We walk in, hit them hard, and we stand between them and those domes. Earth may have been late, but we are here now. For the first time since the attack began, Jonah felt the smallest flicker of something that was not fear. It felt like anger learning how to hope. Space tore open above Mir like someone had cut a line through the stars. The rift yawned wider, spilling blue-white light, and something vast shouldered its way through. Jonah forgot to breathe. The war giant Asterion did not look like any ship he had ever seen. It entered real space curled in on itself, then unfolded, plates rotating, limbs extending like a metal creature stretching after a long sleep. A humanoid shape formed piece by piece. A towering machine the size of a small city, wrapped in thick armor and ringed with weapon arrays that glowed with restrained fury. Behind it, two smaller cruisers slid out of the rift, forming up on its flanks like watchful wolves. Enemy fire locked onto the newcomer immediately. Dozens of beams speared toward Asterion. For a heartbeat, Jonah thought the giant would be cut apart just like the defense ring. The beams hit and slid aside, bent by a shimmering field that hugged the giant's form like a second skin. Mir, this is Asterion. Alara's voice came through, steady and almost casual now. Your giant has arrived. Stand by for ground shield reinforcement. On the surface, emergency projectors flickered to life. New lines of energy extended from the giant down toward the domes, forming a translucent shell around them. The next volley from the enemy fleet splashed against the barrier instead of the homes beneath. The giant raised one arm. Light gathered along the length of its cannon, a slow, rising glow that made the cameras shudder. Then the glow snapped into a single lance that crossed the distance in an instant and punched through the largest enemy cruiser. The hostile ship did not explode. It simply came apart, sliced cleanly through the middle, its two halves drifting apart like pieces of a broken toy. In the comms bay, Jonah began to laugh, a short, shocked sound he barely recognized as his own. Victory did not come quickly. For every enemy ship Asterion cut down, two more slid into formation, adjusting their vectors, testing the giant's barriers. They were learning. Every species that reached the stars did. Jonah stayed at his station, patching sensor feeds, relaying civilian traffic, talking frightened pilots down from panic. Between calls he listened to Alara's command channel, a constant stream of orders and clipped confirmations. Left flank, tighten. Don't chase kills. We're a wall, not a spear. Ground teams, keep evac corridors clear. If the shield wavers, you move fast. At one point a younger voice broke through. Captain, we can't hold this forever. Core temperature is rising. 20 minutes and we risk cascade failure. We just need 15, Alara replied. Mir still has people in the outer domes. I am not telling them we left anyone behind. Jonah found himself speaking aloud to her, even though she could not hear. You're insane, he whispered. Thank you. The enemy changed tactics. Instead of concentrating on Asterion, half their fleet swung wide, angling toward the far side of the planet where the shield lines were thinner. Jonah saw it first on his display. He opened a direct line. Captain Quinn, they're bypassing you. Vector 310 downspin. They'll hit the unprotected settlements. Her reply came without hesitation. Copy, Jonah. I see it. Sending you a ground link. A new window popped up. A view from inside the giant itself. Ranks of pilots stood in narrow bays, their smaller exoframes hanging behind them like armored shadows. We're dropping AUX lances, Alara said. Walking weapons. They'll fight planetside while we keep the sky busy. The war giant opened bays in its legs and torso. Dozens of smaller machines fell toward Mir, burning like a new, angry kind of rain. Holding the line had a cost. Humanity was about to pay it in full. The battle lasted 4 hours. Later, people would argue about details. Which shot turned the tide, which maneuver saved the most lives. Jonah only remembered fragments. The flash of enemy frigates breaking apart in Asterian's crossfire. The crackling reports from ground lances fighting in burning streets. The steady, hoarse voices of medics calling for more supplies. At some point, the enemy fleet began to pull back. "They're retreating," someone said on the net. "No," Elara corrected. "They're remembering we are not easy prey." The last hostile cruiser tried to run for deep space. Asterian let it go. "Leave them," Elara ordered when a weapons officer asked for permission to fire. "Let word spread. Let whoever sent them hear what happened when they touched our colonies." When the shooting finally stopped, the silence felt loud. Jonah sat in the dim comms bay, fingers resting on dead controls. Sweat cooled on his skin. Outside, Mir glowed with wounds. Shattered domes, blackened craters, but it was still there. People were still there. The channel chimed softly. "Jonah Hale, this is Captain Quinn." He swallowed. "Mir owes you everything, Captain." "No," she said. "You did your job. You kept shouting until we heard you." He hesitated, then asked the question that had sat in the back of his mind since she first spoke. Why keep the giants secret? Why hide Asterian until today? For a moment, only the faint hum of the giants' systems answered. "Because if we leave them awake all the time, people forget why they were built," Elara said quietly. "War giants are not for conquest. They're for the days when someone decides our children are acceptable losses." Jonah looked at the torn image of his world. "And what happens now?" he asked. "Now we rebuild," she replied. "And we make sure the galaxy remembers this day." Jonah finally allowed himself to close his eyes. For the first time since the alarms began, he believed there would still be a tomorrow to wake up to.